Well, thank you very much, Keshav, and thank you for your leadership, and my old friend Bob Zellick for your leadership in driving this process in the bank. And I think we also, all of us, owe a special thanks to Prime Minister Putin, who has really exerted enormous amounts of leadership in convening the St. Petersburg summit on this very issue. On a personal note, before I begin, very few remarks on this. This issue really is very close to my heart. The big cats, I fell in love with them when I was a graduate student in East Africa working on my dissertation, and I had a few extra months, so I got a job as a game guide for photo safaris and spent a lot of time with the lions of Serengeti and Amboseli and Ngorongoro. So I was particularly touched by these magnificent animals, and I also had the chance to see the tigers in India several years ago, and I will encourage Bob Zellick to come in March, and I'm sure he can bring his wife. She'd probably have a great time. But these are really, I think, very important issues and mean a lot. Anyone who's seen these wonderful animals and seen them in their habitat can't feel anything but a deep connection to them and a real passion for the kind of things that are going on here and that all of you are enormous contributors to. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here also because the bank has really done so much and because all of you have done so much, and to celebrate the anniversary of the Tiger Summit in St. Petersburg that President Putin called, and many accomplishments of the range states that we've heard about this morning, and the Global Tiger Initiative and all of its accomplishments throughout the past year. The United States is very proud to be part of these impressive and indeed, in many ways, unprecedented efforts to save the roughly 3,200 remaining wild tigers and to increase their number dramatically, which is the goal of this program. We're committed to work towards this goal of doubling wild populations by the next year of the tiger, 2022, and even going beyond that if possible, because this is something that's important, I think, to not only the range countries, but to humanity in general. Over 100 years ago, in an address in Memphis, Tennessee, President Theodore Roosevelt said, "The conservation of natural resources is the fundamental problem. Unless we solve that problem, it will avail us little to solve all others." This sentiment holds true today. Conservation remains a fundamental value of many of us here from many countries around the world, and certainly very much to large numbers of Americans as well. And it's therefore an issue that merits global attention. That's why we're working in many areas and with many partners to promote sustainable development and best practices for using natural resources. Wild tigers, among the most iconic of animals, and they are iconic when you see them and you see magnificent pictures of them, are at the center of much of our work to conserve biodiversity and conserve ecosystems all around the world. The United States has funded many efforts to conserve wild tigers in their natural habitats. Over the past 14 years, the U.S. Congress has garnered bipartisan support, and as you know, bipartisanship in this country doesn't always come easily. Bipartisan support to provide over $11 million for wild tiger conservation programs, including nearly $2 million in 2010. And through our bilateral assistance in USAID, which Bob mentioned, we've provided over $10 million for conservation work throughout Asia in 2010. Much of this will help protect key tiger habitats. In addition to supporting the best science-based approaches to management, all of us need to end the illegal trade in wildlife. This has been mentioned, and it is a great crime, not only against the tigers, but really a crime against humanity that has the opportunity to benefit from these tigers and from wildlife habitats around the world. The United States has provided political and financial support to establishing a global system of regional wildlife enforcement networks including the ASEAN Wildlife Enforcement Network and the South Asian Wildlife Enforcement Network. We're committed to working closely with the International Consortium on Combating Wildlife Crime, as well as Interpol's new Project Predator, which specifically targets illegal trade in tigers and had earlier been mentioned. We will continue to look for innovative ways to achieve our conservation goals. One angle we're actively pursuing is the inclusion of strong environmental commitments in our free trade agreements, and this is something new for the United States, but it's another way we can address these issues. For example, in the Trans-Pacific Partnership negotiations, which were recently advanced in the summit that just took place in Honolulu, we're discussing proposals on new conservation issues, such as CITES, the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species, and sustainable forest management. TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, has the potential to be a model, not only for Asia and the Pacific, but for future trade agreements with other countries in other parts of the world. In addition, in the United States, we have strict civil and criminal penalties to protect both plants and wildlife through something called the Lacey Act, which I should note was signed into law in the year 1900. So this is a long-standing commitment by us, and again, bipartisan in the Congress. In addition to covering the illegal trade of wildlife, the Act has been amended in recent years to help promote the legal trade of wood products by increasing risks for illegal transactions and influencing choices that suppliers and consumers make about forest products. In Russia, for instance, high-value timber species provide key habitat for threatened species such as the Siberian tiger and the Far Eastern leopard. Reducing illegal logging in the Russian Far East reduces pressure on these tiger habitats. And one way of doing that is to restrict the trade in the products that these loggers engage in. We're here today because the poaching and illegal trade in tigers diminishes us all. It undermines our global conservation efforts, and it threatens the economic and social fabric of local communities in many areas, including the communities that have been mentioned this morning. I'm delighted to see the progress that we've made thus far, but as we all know, and as Bob pointed out in his statement, a lot more needs to be done. To save the tiger and meet our collective goals of doubling the number of tigers, we need to work together to redouble our efforts. This includes all of us, governments, civil society, and the private sector. I hope this event will continue to build the bridges among us and continue to build the commitment that we all have to addressing this highly important issue. I commend the bank for its leadership, pulling this group together, and to all of you, not only for your participation, but your enthusiasm, the fact that many of you have come from long distances, and the fact that we're all committed to this goal, which is not only important to tigers, which it obviously is, but it is also important to humanity. Thank you very much.